So what is going on, everybody? Fernando Silva here with another video, and today's video is probably going to be the most requested video when it comes to the Microsoft suite of products on the iPad Pro or on any iPad for that matter. So today we're going to be going over Microsoft Excel, going through the ins and outs of it, the entire overview. We'll start with some of the simpler stuff first, but then we'll get to the really juicy stuff towards the end, which is pivot tables, macros, VBAs, all that good stuff. I had to do a bunch of research, and there's some positives with the iPad Pro, but there's also some negatives that you guys are going to definitely want to take a look at. And of course, I always look at the comments, so I see you, I hear you, Mr. Richard Barnes. I will not show my face in this overview, and I will full screen the iPad to show up the entire screen. Hopefully that helps out to see exactly what's going on, but without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so let's hop right into this video, everybody. The first thing I like to do is see how Microsoft Excel is going to work inside of iPadOS 15, and to make sure that it's actually adopting everything from a multitasking and OS standpoint. So as you can see, if I try to go to my multitasking, it's empty right now. The main thing that I like to show in the very beginning is how quickly these applications open. As you can see, immediately, and I mean immediately, I'm into the application. I'll go in here, delete it, make sure it's gone from the multitasking and all the RAM, go back in, and then right there you're greeted with the very last Excel sheet or project that you've been working on. The next thing I like to do is actually test out the multitasking. So as you can see, the old school way was to just swipe down and pull something else up. So if I grab a YouTube one, move it over to the right, you can see that it does multitask normally. But now what I want to do is actually use the three dots up here. So these three dots work in two different ways. They work by clicking on them and then moving it over. But as you can see, the moment that you click on it, you're also greeted with the app shelf. And now this app shelf is exactly what it sounds like. It basically takes all the different Excel documents that you have, and you can open as many instances of Excel as you would like to. And you can see that if I get out of here, go back into my multitasking, I have 4 different Excel files ready to go whenever I need to use them. And then what I like to do next is actually test out the multitasking. So click on here, let's move it over to one side, let's open up a second Excel sheet, and you can see that you can actually pick from the different Excel windows that you have open previously, let it open up, go home, and you can see that I'm using 2 different Excel sheets at the same time. And one more way to actually get rid of the multitasking or to add to multitasking is you can go into these individually, swipe up to get rid of one, and then go into here and actually add another one in there. So there's multiple different ways to actually get into the multitasking feature, but it looks like Excel has adopted everything that we would want to adopt. But let's go back into here, let's open this up, and now we're greeted with a brand new Excel sheet. Now this is the second sheet, as you can see down here, because this first sheet is for something that I do want to show everybody. But let's go in and actually look at all the basics when it comes to Microsoft Excel and all the features that you're granted with. So if we go in here, you can see that cursor support works perfectly fine. It hovers over everything, it highlights everything that you need it to, and uses that inertia and physics that came with iPadOS 13.4. So that's beautiful to see. But let's go in here and see what happens. You double click, type in hello, and then you can see that the cursor actually turns into a text editor as well. So it continues to use that same design language that Apple has been wanting us to use. But you press enter and you're good to go. The next thing I want to show off is to make sure that your normal hotkeys are working, right? So if I press 1, 2, and I'm pressing enter right now to go down. So there we have a bunch of numbers, and what I want to try now is to see if my shift and hold work, right? So if I go here, hold down shift, go all the way down here, you can see that it does work. And then I want to try to actually add all these up. So if I equal the sum, so you can actually go down here, press that, go from here all the way down to here, press enter, and you can see that they all add up perfectly. So it's just adding up everything that you would want to, and if I want to go in here and change this to 10, it dynamically changes just like any other Excel sheet would. So that's a beautiful thing to see, that at least from a basic standpoint, everything does work. And if I go here, let's say I want to change the text a little bit, you can bold it, underline, italicize, strike through, and do whatever you can add all the borders, making sure that everything is circled correctly, and everything works as advertised, right? We can go in here and also add color to all the different cells inside of the document. You can change the actual font of the words or the text that you're using. So if I go in here, let's change it to a blue color. You can see that it does change blue. So all your regular text editor features are there, and they're very accessible via Microsoft Excel on the iPad Pro. There's a couple more features on the toolbar that I do want to highlight. For instance, the ability to do auto sum. So it pretty much brings in whatever you would need. So it basically thinks of formulas that you would need with this current data set. So you can go in here, press on here, you can auto sum or get the average of these numbers, and it'll give it to you right here. It's basically just assuming all the different functions that you would want to run with this set of numbers. But that is pretty much what you get on the home page of Microsoft Excel. So again, for beginning use, it's going to work perfectly. Now if we go into the insert section, this gets a little interesting as well. So you have the ability to insert tables. So if I insert a table right here, you can start a table however you want. You can make it bigger. And what it does is it auto adds the columns depending on where you want to go, and it continues to add them perfectly. And then again, it dynamically adapts by showing you a new table subject inside of the main toolbar. But if you continue on with insert, you can insert data from a picture, from photos, anything from your camera. So if I go in here, this is a thumbnail for one of the future videos that we have on the channel, which is awesome, but you can move it wherever you want, and it's free flowing, so it doesn't need to fit within a cell. It can fit anywhere you would want it to be. And again, you get another adaptive toolbar menu, which is the picture one. So if we continue with insert, you can insert shapes, make them as big or as small as you want. So this one's right here. It took 1 second to open, and you can edit it just like any other shape. So if you click on the shape right here, you can change the outline of it, make it black, change the fill color, we'll make it orange, and then you have a square that works perfectly fine. And if we continue with insert, you actually have the ability to add stock images, add different icons if you want. So let this load up for a second, and you can see that all these different icons you can add inside the Excel sheet. And then again, you get a new graphics toolbar up here. So many different things that you can actually work with when it comes to Microsoft Excel. And I love how they've been able to add all these features so seamlessly. And then the next thing is actually the recommend. So right now there's no real data to show off. So if I click on here, maybe if I do a recommended with this, boom, it does give you different recommended charts that you would maybe want to use depending on what you're working on. So if I want to click on this chart right here, it just created an auto chart for me based on what they thought I would get out of these charts and what I would want. Another little feature that was added is something called add-ins. So I have the Wikipedia add-in, which basically just allows me to pull up Wikipedia on the right-hand side, but there's an abundance of add-ins that you can work with. So you can go to See All, let it load up, and you have all of these different add-ins. So if you want to be able to kind of import, let's say, different stock connectors in here, you can add that. You have a web video player, so if you want to embed a YouTube video onto here, you can also get that done with these new add-ins, and there's a bunch of different ones, and the list kind of just goes on and on. I do wish there was an easy way to sort through them and search for them through this little portal, but for right now, this is all you get, which, again, it is what it is. You then have a dedicated formulas tab, so you have the auto sum feature, which is right here. You have your most recent features, which is the sum, average, count, and then you have all these different predefined formulas that you can be used for anything you want. And you can see that it's pretty robust, right? So financial ones, you have all these in here. You have different logic ones, which like if this, then that kind of situations. You can do just regular text ones. And again, we can keep going for date over time. We have lookup and reference. We have the math and trigonometry one, which I'm always happy to see. We also have the statistics one. So if you're in like an AP stat class or something that involves statistics inside of your workflow, whether it is at school or for your profession, this is all perfectly inputted in there. And again, they're easy to look up, easy to find. Everything is in ABC order. You have an engineering formula tab, all this different information tab. And then finally, you have the compatibility over here, which, I'm all for giving us as much predefined formula as possible. So now let's go into the data tab. Very, very self-explanatory. So if I want to go in here, do one of these, sort by ascending or descending order, it shows up right there perfectly. And as you can see, it did actually change up the chart a little bit because it's dynamically changed. Then you also have the review section, which allows you to collaborate in real time with this Excel sheet. So you can add comments, show comments, and basically if you're working with other people, those people will also see those comments. Lastly, you have the view bar, which we're going to touch on in a second. And then I did want to touch on the draw. So I'm grabbing my Apple Pencil right now. So once you grab your Apple Pencil, all you're going to want to do is tap on the screen, and immediately you can see that the black marker actually pops up, and you're able to do whatever you want, draw a little heart, say hello over here, which is awesome to see. And you can change everything you want. So you can add a highlighter, go over here, highlight this. You have a little pencil. So if I want to sign my name, that's cool too. So that's all beautiful to see. Apple Pencil works as advertised, even has a lasso effect. You can select objects, and you can also draw with touch. So if you want to draw with touch with your finger, if you don't have an Apple Pencil, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so now let's get into the juicy part. So the main things that everybody wants to know is pivot tables and macros. So for macros, I actually did a little bit of research, and there is a way to create macros, and it's done with JavaScript inside of Excel. So I'm going to leave this link in the description below for you guys to look into it, but it says Microsoft has announced that users will be able to use JavaScript to write macros in Excel, the spreadsheet software that is part of Microsoft Office. But again, the one biggest drawback when it comes to this is the fact that if you're writing your own macros in JavaScript, you're making yourself a little bit susceptible to actual malware, which again, I'm not super well versed in, and I would love to get somebody on here to actually explain this a little bit more. But again, it looks like it is possible. It just requires a lot more customization, and you need to know like what you're doing essentially, right? But again, I think it is possible. Don't quote me on it. And I think it's only available in the beta program for these Microsoft Office products. But again, you can see that Microsoft Office has long supported macros in Office using VBS script language, and they're bringing that over with just regular JavaScript language and giving you the ability to run these different macros. So that is the state of macros in Microsoft Office Excel on the iPad Pro. And then lastly, what I do want to show you is pivot tables. So pivot tables, there's a little bit of a drawback, but the good news is that you have the ability to use them, manipulate them, edit them, do whatever you need to. The only thing is that you cannot create them from scratch on Microsoft Office through Microsoft Excel on the iPad Pro. So normally with regular Microsoft Excel, you're able to go into the insert section and insert a pivot table. Unfortunately, you can't do that right now, but you can import an existing pivot table, which is exactly what I did. So if I go back to Microsoft Excel, go down to the first sheet, you can see that I have a pivot table right here. So it's just a regular sample data pivot table that I clicked on, and then you have the ability to manipulate it, right? You can sort and filter depending on what you need. You have the color in here, so let's go from Z to A, and then everything moves in correspondence to that. Sheet view, and we'll go from largest to smallest. You can go with number filters as well if you want, so equals to top 10. So let's go with a top 10. So it only shows you the top 10 sales that happened this month or whatever data set you're working with. So overall, it looks like you can use them, you can actually play with them, you can manipulate them, you can save them, you can export them, but you cannot actually start one from scratch using Microsoft Excel, unfortunately. And I'm hoping that changes soon, because I know a lot of people use pivot tables inside of Microsoft Excel on a daily basis. But then outside of that, you do have the ability to just edit this as a normal table as well. So you have all the different style options that you would want, right? You can have table styles over here, alternate text, which is good to have, and then convert to range. So basically it shows you everything that you would have from before. And overall, I mean, it's usable, but I'm sure that a lot of professional level Microsoft Excel users and those master level Excel users are going to say that this isn't enough. And by all means, if it's not enough for you, then it's not enough for you. But my whole argument is that Microsoft Excel from a basic standpoint works well, in my opinion. But that's going to do it for this recording. Hopefully, Richard Barnes, if you're still listening, you won't see my face until the very end of the video. But let's get out of here and go to the next view. So that is pretty much going to do it for this video, everybody. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, there's a lot of positives that come out of Microsoft Excel. It's made a lot of strides on the iPad Pro, and for a lot of basic and beginning users, it's more than enough. You can do everything that you would need to, right? All the formulas are kind of built in there. You can create charts, you can create line graphs, you can create entire Excel sheets and have a huge database and things like that. But again, there is some downfall when it comes to Microsoft Excel on the iPad Pro, especially for those, I guess, master users or people that use it a lot more than just for a basic arithmetic problem and a basic kind of like mean, median, average kind of situation. So again, the negatives that we saw was pivot tables. Even though we can use them and manipulate them and kind of work with an already existing pivot table, so you're gonna have to create them from scratch either on macOS or on Windows. And then again, when it came to the macros, there's some kind of sort of way around it. And I would love to get a real master level Excel user on the channel, maybe interview him a little bit and understand exactly what you use your macros for, right? Because there is a way to actually get macros to work with some JavaScript and things like that, but it opens you up to a lot of malware vulnerabilities, which are just things that we want to avoid at all costs, especially if your iPad Pro is your main device. But again, overall, for basic use, it's amazing. For more intense use, you might be better off getting a MacBook Air or a Windows computer, for now at least, or maybe even using the online version of Microsoft Excel on the iPad Pro, because in that situation, then it should work, and I think it does work with all the research that I did, but you definitely want to keep it inside of the application because it's just a cleaner experience overall. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know the ending might have been a little bit disappointing, but again, for 95% of users, basic users, I get a full recommendation of Microsoft Excel on the iPad Pro. It's just that like 5%, that top 5% of features, it's not really quite there yet to that intense kind of professional use case when it comes to Microsoft Excel. But that's going to do it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We're still going to do Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft OneNote, so definitely leave some comments down below of any questions that you guys have. And I wasn't kidding. If somebody wants to come onto the channel and is an Excel user and wants to kind of walk through how they would use Excel on an iPad versus a regular desktop class experience, by all means, reach out to me via Twitter. More than happy to have a conversation, put it on the channel, because I'm also, for me personally, I'm very curious. But again, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Deuces.